So why should we engage in freelance? Why should freelancers engage in critical friendships for CPD? Um, well, first of all, I want to refer to the fact that a lot of freelancers work on short-term contracts. I'm going to give myself as an example. So earlier on during the summer, I was fully engaged in EAP. I taught for 10 weeks at the University of Edinburgh on the pre-sessional course, attended all the CPD sessions, totally immersed in EAP. And then at the end of August, I flew back home on the Saturday, and on the Monday, I started teaching Europol police officers working I work as an aviation examiner, and teacher, working in aviation, and obviously private lessons, which is what many freelancers do. And it's now November, and EAP seems so far away. So, because of the sporadic engagement that we freelancers have with the AP, a critical friendship can actually help us maintain currency and obviously exchange knowledge at the same time. So, citing Ding and Bruce there, EAP practitioner CPD is usually a solitary endeavor. So I want you to think about your own CPD. Um, how often have you been with a group of people studying together in order to improve your EAP CV? For me personally, I recently, as I mentioned, completed a master's degree, and to be perfectly honest, I was quite lonely at times, and I think I would have benefited from having a critical friend during that time. So obviously, I've talked about loneliness and solitary endeavors. I think that critical friendships can help those of us who have maybe more precarious employment situations. Having just that connection can help us alleviate imposter syndrome. And I talk about imposter syndrome a little bit because I'm an expert in imposter syndrome. I suffer terribly from it. Um, but having had the opportunity to engage with EAP colleagues, I have that has alleviated a little bit. And also, I think it's really important for us that a critical friendship, apart from the academic um, knowledge exchange, it can also help our emotional well-being. So yeah, obviously, EAP practitioners, those of us who work as freelancers, we can be rather marginalized, okay? But this could be mitigated through knowledge exchanges across a wider academic context. So this could go beyond EAP departments, and obviously observations, you need to be on a pre-sessional to have that. But maybe just engaging in critical friendships can be part of these knowledge exchanges. Um, I'm going to use the word however, because there's going to be, of course, a however. So giving and or receiving meaningful critical feedback is an investment of time and energy into the critical friendship relationship. Now, Antigone referred to the structure of critical friendships. They can be quite short or they can be a little bit longer. However, we need to be invested. Both parties need to be invested. And if you remember my talking about the external pressures that freelancers have, time was actually one of those that I referred to. And I'm going to use this. This is one of my participants. When I interviewed them, they were this, and I'll give you some background information. This particular participant was just finishing a master's degree in TESOL, already looking for their next CPD. and at the same time working as a freelancer. And they said that when time is taken away from you, engaging in CPD and engaging maybe in a critical friendship, um, that takes away from our earnings. Okay, so yeah, at some point it all comes down to money, unfortunately. Some other issues I think that we do need to consider are, let's imagine that we engage in a critical friend interaction. Would higher education employers consider these engagements as valid CPD? And in that case, how could we, the EAP practitioners, evidence our critical friendships? So we will have, as a group, we will have an opportunity to discuss these questions. But what I'd like to do now with Antigone is we would like to tell you why we should embrace our critical friendships. I'm going to give you a little bit of background information here. Back towards the beginning of the year, Ali was organising a PIM organised by Queen Mary University of London. And they also had a slow PIM, an asynchronous opportunity for practitioners to contribute for those who couldn't attend the PIM. And a very highly respected and very kind manager from my pre-sessional contacted me, and this person knows that I suffer from imposter syndrome and basically messaged me with imposter syndrome is so last year, participate, you have something to share. And so I decided to bite the bullet and I would contribute to the PIM. But as a freelancer, right on the margins, I really didn't have anyone to talk to. And then I realized that I could interact with my pre-sessional colleague. And so I sent Antigone this message. What's up, as you can see. So I said, hi there, how are you? Can I ask a favor? Could you read my reflection and the abstract? They're short. If you're busy, not a problem. So you can see there's insecurity there.
So, and what I answered, hi, Natasha, just read it. I have a couple of minor comments. Can you talk? Send you an email with just one comment.
Hi there, just got home. I can talk.
Me too. Shall I call you?
A lot of hedging going on in this conversation. So you can see then we had a voice call for 32 minutes, emails followed. Thanks for the comment. Yes, that's it. Probably more logical. So Antigone, so this if we're thinking about critical friendships, this began rather informally, okay. But the other benefit of this interaction was, I would say, probably also for Antigone.
So then, I mean, Natasha kind of inspired me, and I thought, well, maybe I should, participate in that PIM as well. So now it was my turn to ask for her feedback. So here I am writing to her. Hello, I wrote an abstract. I think it is too personal, but I started a visual poster as I found the template, and it's not difficult. Most are my own photos. Can I send you the abstract? If it is idiotic, so you see my confidence there, just tell me. Don't want to make a fool of myself.
Okay, yeah, so we're professional imposter syndromers, aren't we? So of course, I'm showing off my Greek here, of course. Of course, Miles Blakiers, don't be silly, okay? And then I continue. I changed my intro a bit, as you said, and just submitted it, okay? Um, and then Antigone responds, and then we continue. And then the last, I don't know if you can see it at the bottom, do you want to bounce ideas? And I think at this point, this really became a more structured, critical friendship. So we're not going to read everything for you. We can share these slides if you want to read them. But as we began, we were sharing emails, calling each other, but this became much more focused on our two contributions for the PIM. And so in fact, I'll just move to the next slide here. So here is a screenshot of the asynchronous PIM. Some of you may have actually participated, which is wonderful, or interacted or read some of the interviews and personal stories. Antigone and I contributed to the personal stories section. And here we are. This is part of Antigone's poster and part of my reflection. So on the note of reflection, I think it's, as you can see, and as I mentioned before, this began as something rather informal, but we ourselves turned it into a more structural critical friend engagement. And so I'm going to come back to the two questions that I asked earlier on, and it would be really nice if, if anyone here is actually engaged in critical friendships, but do you consider critical friend engagements as CPD? And as EAP practitioners, how can we evidence these critical friendships? I think also we need to consider whether it's actually academic or academic enough. Is it meaningful? Is it beneficial? And is it CPD? Speaking for Antigone and myself, we think it's true. So I'll just show you that we do have our references here, but I'm going to come back to this slide. Would anyone like to ask any questions or maybe share their thoughts about critical friendships for CPD?
There's some questions coming up in the chat there. Thank you for that, Natasha, and Antigone will give you a formal thank you in a minute. But yeah, so Jason, there's a lot of chat about imposter syndrome in the chat there. And Jason's talking about, quite common. And it's harder to talk about in current environments, and Faith there. Yeah, I was talking about her own experience of critical friendships and actually how it sort of really put her on a slightly different trajectory, and it's someone that she's kept in touch with as well after leaving that particular institution. So it was actually her line manager. So it's an example of where that critical friendship can be, two different people with slightly different roles as well. So there's a couple of things coming up there. I don't know if anyone wants to jump in. I can talk about this for hours, as you know, but